All right, that was President Bola Tinubu there in his Democracy Day speech to Nigerians and even the world. Those who are friends of Nigeria who would like to know what's going on, what their president is saying. And that was his first speech or Democracy Day speech as president of Nigeria. So I have gentlemen that will help me make sense or help us make sense of what ideas that the president has put forth. Joining us in the studio as we further analyze the president's Democracy Day address is columnist Sam Omashaye, as well as Ayodele Adewale, Pioneer Secretary of the June 12 Coalition. Gentlemen, it's good to see you. And Sam, it's good to have you back on set. Nice to see you.
Yes.
Great. Now, we're going to dissect some of the things the president has said. Right, it's Democracy Day in Nigeria, and everyone is reflecting on how far we have come in the evolution of the democracy we practice on the African continent. And especially looking around, Nigerians are very, things happen and we compare our democracy to other ones around the world. How far are we going? How good are we on the journey towards our destination as a nation and as a people? All right, I have Sam Omashaye as well as Ayodele Adewale here. I've introduced them earlier on. But gentlemen, let's start from the speech of the president. In the United States, sometimes they compare speeches of presidents on certain days to, okay, what message is it carrying? What's the weight of what the president has said and all of that? Sam, I'm going to start with you on this. I wonder if that speech elicited the kind of inspiration to Nigerians on a day like this.
Yes, thank you. Anybody who listened to the speech and anybody who has listened to speeches in the past by leaders, whether the military, whether the civilian, will know that this is perhaps one of the best speeches that a president of Nigeria, a leader of Nigeria, has written. The other leader who has had good speeches, interestingly, was Ibrahim Babangida. But his speeches had a lot of devious light to them because they were speeches about literary beauty, dressed over tyrannical intentions. This is perhaps the first speech in Nigeria that you can say it is truly inspirational that we have seen by a sitting president in Nigeria. Now, there are so many components to this speech. But first, we have to take into consideration that the man who is writing about June 12, who made this speech about June 12, was also a principal figure in the battle he was talking about. He didn't even mention himself. There was a sort of pushing aside, in this thing. It's just a self-cancellation. That's how I put it. There was a sense of humility of silence about his own role, because he played a major role. There was somebody who was supposed to be on this show. Well, I even told you a story about how he himself and Bola Tinubu were put in detention by the military. And when they were in detention, they wanted to release him. His name is Senator Abu Ibrahim. Couldn't come today because of something that happened over the weekend. They said, okay, we want to release you, Abu Ibrahim. Abu Ibrahim said, no, you cannot release me unless you release this man. And they said, no, we will not release that man. They said, then I will not go. So we must take a principal consideration of the fact that he himself was a principal factor. Thank God he survived it. He mentioned those who died. Bakalda, I didn't mention Bakalda Kalto, the journalist who disappeared, whose remains we can never see. Kudirat Abiola,
Alfred Rewane.
my kinsman, Alfred Rewane, and a few others who died. Then there are people who had near-death experiences, like the leader of the Yoruba movement, what's his name again? Papa Adesanya, you know, people like that. Many people, the journalists who were in hiding, and so on and so forth. People like us who also were trailed and pursued, you know, in the country. You know, so it documented that it was a time for the sacrifice of blood and treasure. It made that point very clear in the book that is where they come. And then he talked about the fact that civilizations, he was referring to Anatole with the great English historian and philosopher. He was also under the influence of Hegel and his Hegelian dialectics about the interaction between thesis and thesis, and from thesis is thesis. The synthesis here is the civilization, because he believes that civilizations do not come from race or from environment, but civilizations actually come from primitive societies. That's why you have great civilizations. It can be contested, because the primitive societies like Great America came out of a very rugged atmosphere. The British civilization came out of that. The Greek civilization came out of that, and so on and so forth. But people can argue, anyway, that's a matter of philosophy, because Roman civilization built itself on the Greek civilization, and it had its own rugged atmosphere, and so on and so forth. But what he was saying here is that we had to go through what he called the second independence, which is a very good phrase.
Yeah,
second independence, which I would call the second wind of Nigerian history. Second independence, where we had to rethink, reorganize, and reimagine. Some historians and philosophers are talking about imagined society. So we try to reimagine the Nigerian society. I'm talking too long. Reimagine the Nigerian society, and that's what he was talking about. And in reimagining the society, Nigerian society, was what the whole idea of June 12 is. It bringing back democracy, taking away tyranny. And then we have been in that journey for 24 years. I can go on now.
We'll come back to you, because it looks like you're taking us to the classroom this morning. You know, and when you talk about the Hegelian dialectics of the issue of the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis, and all of that, and the way it relates to our society. I recall sitting in class once, you know, learning some of these things. So you're taking us back to class and all of that. Now, Adele, the point there is, dissecting the president's speech, he mentioned names of some persons who had paid the supreme price. Of course, the list is so long that the names of everyone can't be mentioned on a day like this. You were one of those who you were also in the trenches at the time. Recall several times that we have talked about it several times as well. But when it comes to immortalizing these people, on a day like this, people talk about the roles that people have played. Sam has talked about some persons who paid the supreme price, others who had a near-death, you know, circumstance or situation and all of that. If we have to begin to document, what would it take if we have to immortalize these people? Because these are all the building blocks of our remembering that this is the democracy we have. And even for generations to come, they need to know that some things happened. Some people did some things that kept us or kept this nation going.
Well, I thank you for inviting me to your program today, but I'll say that you were also part of it, even though you don't put it out there. But we saw you. Majorly, the best way to immortalize them is to implement what everybody fought for and what everybody had hoped that Nigeria will become. If we can achieve that through Asuwaju presidency, then the souls of our heroes past would have been, you know, kept quiet, kept happy, and there will be a renewed hope for a generation yet unborn, and the present generation to opine on. It's on the basis of that various historical precept and concepts, as mentioned by Uncle Sam here, would have a foundation to lay upon. then historians and every Nigerian will write their own story from their own understanding as at the time when all of this thing evolved. You must not be quick to forget that the struggle of June 12 was metamorphosing and reinventing itself as the journey continued. I didn't start on June 12 particularly, but I joined along the line. And several other people also joined. So the point of history from Mr. Sam will be different from my own point, will be different
because
from
of the
your
experiences.
point, because of the experience and dynamics and activity that we all embarked in. But more importantly, it is to actualize the vision of June 12. Chief M.K.O. Abiola, of blessed memory, was the fulcrum, was the symbol. But June 12 was beyond that. It was about the Nigerian people and the Nigerian people's quest to have an egalitarian society for themselves.
It's really very interesting to know. Now, when we come back from the break, Sam, I'd like you to take us through some of the roles that the media and even some civil society organization played in achieving the democracy that we have from the military that we had at the time